Welcome once again to the New England Job Show. Today's session is entitled Finding Work That Fits Your Life. Are you considering a career change? It's been said that the key to career success is knowing yourself and knowing what you're passionate about. Want to reassess your interests and skills, perhaps change direction, and maybe even reinvent yourself? If you're ready to think differently about what you'd like to do, we're pleased to have an expert in these areas join us today. Clare Harlow, who has a master's in social work, is a career and life coach. Along with seeing clients privately, she leads workshops, classes, and coaching groups on career and life planning, family and work communication using the DISC personal profile, and work-life balance. With warmth and humor, she helps clients identify strengths, set realistic goals, discover work that suits their personality, and create a personalized roadmap for success. Welcome to the New England Job Show, Clare.
Thanks for having me.
In these economic times, I know I've bumped into the word coaching every now and then. I wonder if you would take a moment and tell us what coaching is and what it isn't.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Coaching is a unique partnership that supports people as they make changes in their lives, basically. It often resembles counseling, but it's not therapy, and that's the big distinction. Coaching is more action-oriented and focuses on the present and the future rather than the past. As a coach, I am part advocate, teacher, advisor, really depends on the situation, guiding you as you get clear on what you want, helping you make choices based on your goals, and keeping you on track as you navigate through career and life transitions.
You mentioned earlier that knowing yourself and what you are passionate about is important. Why so?
Well, I think it's particularly important for me. My focus is largely on the inside work, getting clarity on that first and then going out into the world and getting into job search mode, the resumes, the interviewing, the networking, and all the nitty-gritty. That's important, but to me, if you have to be clear on what you want and who you are first, or people won't be able to help you. So I'm not just about getting people a job. I want people to find work that really fits.
I've read the literature, and I know I've seen around that you give workshops, including one about finding work that fits. Could you tell us what the steps are in that process, please?
I'd be happy to. Step number one, no surprise, is who are you? And for me, that's really important. What is your style? What's your personality? How do you like to do things? And I am very fond of using the DISC personality assessment, but there are lots of personality assessments. There are thousands out there. Myers-Briggs is another popular one that people may be familiar with. I like to put all those together. Assessments can be very helpful in figuring out who you are, what your style is, what your preferred mechanism of doing things is. I also use something called the party exercise, which is based on the Holland Code, which will mean something to other career coaches. And that's a fun exercise that, again, gets at your interest areas. So many of those things. But I think the important thing about this is that it is the first and most important key step in the process, and one that is often overlooked.
Next.
Step two is what's important to you, and this is a nice tie-in with step one. This really gets into your values, your beliefs, your preferences for things. Again, not something that we often think about, gee, what are my values on a day-to-day basis? But we should, and when you're thinking about changing careers, this piece, again, tied in with the who are you, is really, really important. Because if you end up in a job that does not match your values and your beliefs, you probably will not be happy.
What else do you want to learn about me before you can tell me which direction I should go in?
Well, step three is really important too. They're all important, but I love this one. What do you like to do? And this is where we look at your favorite skills, what are your interests, what are your strengths, your gifts, your talents. Everyone has unique gifts and talents, I believe anyway. And what are you passionate about? More and more people need to be, I think everybody should be passionate about something. I think people are, but a lot of times people throw this by the wayside and they say, well, I'm passionate about cooking, but, I can't make a living at that. And this step is so important because, again, if you go with what you love, you will find a job.
Are there more things you'd like to know before you give me some advice?
Lots of steps. Step 4 is what don't you like or want. Now, as much as it's important to know what you do like to do, it's also really important to know what you don't like to do and what you don't want. So for this, we do a brainstorming exercising. For example, many people don't want a job that requires a lot of travel, and many jobs do these days. If you have to get on a plane all the time, for some people, maybe they get sick or whatever, they may not want to do that. Shift work. Many people don't want to work, a 3 to 11 shift or an 11 to 7 shift. Other people might prefer it. And noise is a big one that comes up. Do you want to work with somebody that's screaming in your ear all the time? So again, all these kinds of things that very often when you go to a job interview, they're not going to ask you, and you may not notice, but it's good to know ahead of time. Because again, one little thing like too much travel could make the difference, make it or break it in the job and whether you like it or not.
And surely geography must come into play at some point in this.
This is also important. Where do you like to work? So after you know what you like and what you don't like, where do you want to work? And not just the geography in terms of what state you want to live in or what country you want to live in, that's important, but also just we do an environmental analysis and really look at what kind of working conditions do you like. Would you prefer to be in a high-rise building with a bunch of windows? Would you like to be grounded on the floor where you can get out and walk around during the daytime? Do you like to be in an office cubicle, or do you want to have a big space all to yourself? I mean, all of those kinds of things, again, exploring where you really want to work. And then, of course, the geography. Do you want to be in a city? Do you want to be in the country? Do you want to be in Europe? Do you want to be in America? All of those things come into play to really help you find work that fits.
Well, that tells us a little bit about the work. What about where I live?
Well, what do you need to live is the next step. And this where we start moving a little bit more into the nitty-gritty. What kind of outcomes are you looking for? And things like what kind of salary are you looking for? And benefits, of course, how much vacation you'd like to have. Outcomes in terms of maybe you'd like it if they had a fitness center so that you could exercise right there. That you would like 4 weeks vacation instead of 2 or 3. What do you need? But this is where you also factor in the practicality of what do you really need. Do you need $50,000 to live a year or $40,000? What do you really need so that you can be practical and realistic when it comes to your work that fits?
Now we know a little bit about my life and where I want to live. What's the next step in the process?
Well, the next step is who or what do you need to help you get there. So, you figured out who you are, what's important, your interests. Now what do you do? Again, we get into networking is, of course, key in finding any job. Having a resume, you absolutely have to have an exceptional resume these days. And social media is huge. You must be on LinkedIn. Facebook is picking up, Twitter, all those kinds of things, whatever you feel comfortable with, but particularly I think for the job search you have to be on LinkedIn. So you need to get up on that kind of stuff. And then you need to work on interview strategies, going on informational interviews if you're not sure what you want to do, and then to prepare for the regular interviews when you actually do get a job interview, you want to be up on that. So what this piece is all about, figuring out the key components and also the people, the contacts that you'll need, because you will need some people to interview with, not just the people that are interviewing you, but the informational interviewing that you're going out to figure out, well, gee, maybe I want to be a pastry chef after all. So why don't I go talk to a pastry chef and see what they really do for a living? So all of these pieces would comprise that who or what do you need to help you get there. It's a big list.
Suppose I did want to be a pastry chef. How do I get a handle on what things are in my way?
The next step is also this is the frustrating one for some people. What's holding you back? But it's really important. People like to bury it under the rug, but you can't, because the fears and obstacles, or as I call them, the yeah buts, will come up. And that's exactly what happens when someone says to me, well, I want to be a pastry chef, but, well, my mother doesn't want me to do it, and my dad thinks it's a stupid idea, and they say I won't make any money, and all of those things that come into play. and they just drown your enthusiasm and kill your passion. Do not let that happen. This is what is going to hold you back are the fears and obstacles, but the yeah buts are the real killer. And in order to overcome them, I tell people to put them in a corner for a while and really focus on all of these things are doable. So focus on what you can do to get there that can really help you just get over those yeah buts and figure out comes into the next step, which is creating an action plan with realistic goals and a timetable. So in other words, we need to put it into a plan, a concrete plan, and write it down with real goals and a time frame, which may change over, might take you a year to go to school or something like that, but if it's realistic, you can do it, and then you can keep track of things. And how are we going to do that? Well, staying on track is the last and final, but certainly not the least important step. Focus, support, and accountability are key to achieving any goal, and that's where coaching can be extremely helpful. But, you need to have the support of family and friends, and if you can't have that, you for sure need to hire a coach because you need the focus and the support to help you get through the plan. And then hopefully you'll have that job that you love.
Well, thank you very much for outlining that, Claire. Is there something you have final words for us or advice or what we might do next?
Well, just those are the steps basically, but I'd like to end, Steve Jobs died recently, and I think his Stanford speech will be quoted a lot, but he said, find what you love to do what you believe is great work. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle. The face of death is a good reminder of what's really important. Follow your heart and your intuition. Don't waste time living someone else's life. And that's like what I'd like to impart with people. And as I say, it's your life. Make it work.
Thanks again, Clare Harlow. Thanks for coming to New England Job Show. You can get in touch with Claire through her website. It's Your Life, Make It Work, and there's other contact information showing on the screen now. Thanks again, Clare Harlow.
Thank you.
Be sure to look for future segments featuring career and life coach Clare Harlow.